Hello everyone and welcome back to another Java Made Simple tutorial video. Hopefully you're doing great and you're able to follow through these videos. In this one we are going to be talking about methods. You may remember that previously we talked about this main method, which you can see on the screen, that it has some kind of special format and and now we are going to be talking about methods in general and what they are and how we can use them. Imagine that this imaginary boss that we mentioned in one of our previous videos gives us a task to print some message 5 times. You may think, okay, yeah, this is super easy, I can just do that with the for loop. But imagine that he said, yeah, print it 5 times, but on different places, so on 5 different places. This is something where you would use a method. So in order to avoid duplication of a code, you would use a method to basically call that same code over and over and again. So for example, if he says print it 5 times, you create a method that is used to print this message and you just call that method 5 times. So methods are really powerful tool that you're going to be using during your programming. So basically every program out there has methods. So let's take a look at them and see how we can create one and see how it looks like. So to create a method, we start with this modifier, which can be either public or private. For now, we're just going to use private, and I'm going to get into more details later on when we talk about classes. So for now, just accept it as it is. It's going to be private and it's going to be static. So for now, we're just going to do that and not talk much about it, but later on, we are going to explain why are we doing this and what it is for. So it's private static, and now every method has a type. It's those exact same types as we use them for example, for creation of our arrays, or for example, for creation of some variables and stuff like that. So again, a method can have types. A method must have a type, and it's called a return type. So this is something that what will your method return? In our case, we are trying to create a method that just prints a message. So logically, that method doesn't return anything. In that case, we use a type called void. So our method is void. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't return anything. It just does some action, performs some action, and just that's it. It doesn't have a return value. Another thing that method needs is a name. And the naming of the methods by convention is you use camel case, which means you start with a lowercase letter and every next word is a uppercase letter. So for example, this is a name of a method. Print some message. So the print is lowercase. So we start with P lowercase and then S and M are uppercase. And also we have these brackets here, and to create the body of the method, we use the curly brackets. So everything inside of the curly bracket is a body of the method. So that's what belongs to method. In our method, we are just trying to print message, so we're going to use our system out print, same way as we did before, and we're going to print hello, for example. Okay, so at this point we created our method, but we are not using it anywhere. So to use it, to actually call this method and to actually make it do something, we just say print some message. So we just call it like this. You type in the name of the method that you have and these brackets, and you of course end it with a semicolon. So let's run our program, and now we should be able to see in the console this message. Perfect. One more thing that method can have is parameters. So something that you give into this method. For example, in our case, that would be an actual message that you want to print. We want to give in that message and then just print it. So to do that, we declare the parameters inside of these brackets, and each parameter is handled the same way as the variable. So it has a type and it has a name. For example, in our case, it would be a string and it would be a message. And to call it, it's the same way as we did before. We just do this. And now you can see that our IntelliJ is complaining about something here. Basically, it's saying to us, yeah, I'm expecting one argument, which is this string here, but I'm missing it. So we need to provide in a string. We can do it exactly like this, or we can create a variable as we did before and then just give that variable here to this method. But let's just do it like this first, and let's run our program. So as you can see, it's printing 1, 2, 3. If we declare a variable here, string, and call it something, I don't know, and then to provide that in, so to pass that into the methods, we just put it here, and it's complaining because it's static. It needs to be static because this method is static. That's why we made also this one, but we will be talking about static variables later on. And we can now run our program again, and everything should be working. So yeah, it's getting printed. Of course, it's possible to mix different types of parameters. So for example, you can pass in a string and you can pass in an int, and we can print that number here, and we can pass it in here, I don't know, whatever. And if we run our program, we should see two messages now, so our actual message and the number that we passed in. The number of parameters that the method can have is basically unlimited. You can add as many as you want, but by some conventions, usually it's limited to either 8 or maybe 6, because if the method has, I don't know, 1000 parameters, nobody's going to use that. It's just too much. You should keep it simple. And of course, the names of the method should be meaningful. So I can basically name it whatever I want, but if you read this, you have no idea what this method does. So if I put it here and you're just seeing this part of code, how would you know what this does? I mean, it really makes no sense. So let's try to create one more method. Let's create a method that would tell us if the number is, so we pass into numbers and we say if the first number is less than the second number that we passed in. So our method would again be private static. Now we would have a return type. That return type would be Boolean. So our result will be either true or false. And we are going to name it is first and so is the first number lower than the second one, and it's going to be int number and int yep. And now you can see that we have a return type in this case, so it's a Boolean. To return something, in this case we are returning a Boolean, we use the return keyword, so we say return. And what do we want? If we can, here we can, for example, just return true, and our method would always return true, but that's not something that we want. You know how to create Booleans, so we can say first number less than second number. So our method now is doing something, is checking if the first number is, I'm not sure if the lower is spelled like this or with so with the V or W. So excuse my spelling if this is wrong. So we are checking here if the first number is less than the second number. And maybe we can, I don't know, print that out. So we can say system.out.println, and here we can again call our method. So is first number lower than the second one, and we pass in 1, and we separate it by comma, and when we pass in 5. For example, we would expect that this prints true because the 1 is lower than 5. We can run it. And yeah, as you can see, it prints true. So let's call it once more. And now instead of 1, we're going to give some other number, and we would expect that this prints false. Yeah, as you can see, it prints true and it prints false. Also, you can, the return value of this method, you can put it directly into a variable. So for example, you could, sorry, not a string, it's a Boolean, because we have a return value Boolean, and it's going to be named something equals, and we're going to have 0 and I don't know, 6. And then system out println x epsilon, and I can remove this, and it basically works exactly the same way. So yeah. And for example, if you would have private static string, so this is another example where we have a return type string, get, and we named it something, and we can return this, and we can call this one here. So it's exactly the same as what we had in the first case. It's just calling this method directly, and yeah. If you want to jump to this method in IntelliJ, you can just middle mouse click it, and then it will just jump, or hold Control and then left mouse click, and it will jump directly to wherever this method is declared. So if it would be somewhere in some different file, you would jump to it. So it's just some neat IntelliJ trick. Basically, that's it for the methods. We're going to be using them, of course, much more in the few next videos, or a bunch of next videos. So for now, I just want you to know the basics. And if something is unclear about this, just yeah, write me a message, leave me a message somewhere, and I'll try to explain it. So until the next video, I will see you then.